This is all the talk on social media right now, is everybody talking about looking for jobs, applying to jobs, not finding jobs. It is the hottest topic I think I've seen in the last few weeks. And that's why I'm bringing on one of my really good friends, Paige, who is an expert in this field. When I say expert, the expert of all experts. Paige, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here. And you're right. I am a little bit of a subject matter expert in the career job hunting space.
Yeah, so give it to the people because I know all about what you do, but tell us your job, how you got there, and kind of how you're the expert in this particular topic.
Yeah, so I work for one of the world's first and largest specialized staffing firm, Robert Half. So we're a global company and we work in staffing, but we specialize in particular areas of expertise. I actually specialize in marketing and creative, but we have teams that specialize in technology, legal, administrative, and finance. Finance is our biggest one. I was like, why am I not missing one of them? So we that's what we do. We staff on a contract, full time. We also have a consulting arm, Protivity, and we also do retained search. And we have a lot of different things that we do, but we specialize in a particular niche, and that's what we staff in.
Okay, so basically, Paige, you just said a whole lot of words, and my brain just exploded. But all that to say, Paige knows what she's talking about, and that's why I'm bringing her on, because she does. You hire people, you've been through the very many stages of hiring, and now you're at the very top. You're one of the boss people because you've worked your way to the top. So you can speak on multiple levels here.
Yes, I have. Yes. Yes. I've been with the organization for 10 years, but I'm so passionate about what I do because I love it. We truly change people's lives. We're working with people's livelihood, and that's not missed on me. So I feel really lucky with what I do because not only is it a great career, but I'm also helping people, which is so great and so rewarding at the same time.
I want to start with kind of like a funny thing. What is like the most ridiculous thing that you often see in these interviews or like on resumes and you're like, guys, please stop doing this?
Girl, well, legit, I've had someone show up to an interview looking like Jack Sparrow. I mean, full-blown eyeliner, beads. I mean, I don't recommend. Nothing against pirates. I'm sure they're lovely people. But maybe, business maybe frowned on thievery. So maybe not the Jack Sparrow look. But, something we've talked about in the past is avoiding putting your headshot on your resume. Mm-hmm. This doesn't make sense for everybody. If you're in entertainment, like what you do, broadcast or an actor or model, it makes sense. But when it comes to like a corporate job or a professional job, avoid it. You already get judged so hard based off of your experience and your skill set. You don't need it to be on the way you look. So avoid putting your headshot. It's also just awkward. So don't do that.
Yeah, no, it definitely made sense for my field that I was in, but it was strange for me even putting it on there. I was like, do we really need to put my headshot on there? And they're like, yes, unfortunately, that's the thing for your particular job.
Like your industry makes sense. Yeah. Now for what we do or what I do and what I staff, probably not.
Okay. Now, what is something that you see on resumes or see in an interview like, yes, more of this?
So resumes, tailoring your resume to the particular job, it takes time, but having one resume and mass applying does not work. So just like you would use keywords to find a particular search on Google, you want to do the same thing with your resume, tailoring it to a job posting and even the company. Take it even further. Say if you are a web content coordinator and you're applying for a web content coordinator job, and you see that company's site is built in WordPress, you may want to put WordPress all over your resume. So even if it's not in the job description.
So a little research goes a long way.
Huge. But yeah, I would absolutely do that. And always, you're never going to go wrong with business casual. I mean, it's not that you always have to have a 3-piece suit on, but putting your best foot forward always makes a good impression, regardless of the company.
Okay, now those were like our fun kind of, easy questions. Yeah. Now we're getting into the hard-hitting stuff.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think is happening right now? Because you see online, there's all kinds of people who are like, I cannot find jobs. Nobody is hiring. What is your kind of take on this, that what's going on in the job market right now that you're seeing?
You know, it's really interesting because there's 8.1 million jobs on the market right now, and the unemployment rate's not bad. It's around 4.1, 4%. It hasn't changed much in the past year. So we haven't seen huge inflections. So it's interesting because there's actually more of a demand in the current market in the US than there is supply, which is interesting. So, but let me digress. So I want to start back from the pandemic because I feel like everything still stems from the pandemic.
Naturally, because that was such a weird time in our life.
Yeah. Well, you had all of these layoffs and then you move forward. PPP loans were granted. And so people started to hire again and everyone started to leave their jobs to get better ones. It was called the Great Resignation. People were offered these insane salaries. I'm talking like hundreds of thousands more than they've made before. So of course, no brainer. Let's leave. And so now when these loans have dried up and people realize, oh, I've got to pay those back. Now we have layoffs happening. The tech industry was hit really hard in that space. And then you're coupled with, you know, some unsettling things in the market. You add an election year on top of that. Businesses aren't for sure what legislation is going to impact their business. So they hold their coins tight to their chest. So it's an interesting market. You know, there are jobs out there, but the reason why it's hard is that there's been a lot of things that have happened over the past couple of years. And I think people don't realize that all of the time is there was so much change so fast. So one of the things I always say is if someone's offering you an insane salary and it's too good to be true, believe them. Take a look at organizations and how they responded to the pandemic. If they were doing a ton of layoffs, how did they respond to that? And layoffs can make business sense. So it's not necessarily always a bad thing, but how do they recoup from that? What does that look like? What's their sustainability look like as an organization? How long have they been in the game? All of these things are really important when you're looking for a job. And so I think I covered all of that.
Yeah. Well, it's just crazy because when you look at say I take an average person and I'm sitting here in front of my computer, I'm like, let me put together a resume. Okay, send this off. And then when you're getting nothing in return, I understand that that's frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
But having the context of, oh, this is why this is happening and it's not you, taking away that focus of, say you are doing all the things right that Paige mentioned, especially at the beginning, you're dressing right, you're looking the part, you're doing the research, you're actively applying, and you're still not getting that. And then you hear this, it at least gives some context to what's happening.
Yeah. And it's not all bad, but I will say, and I think it's really important if we're going to have conversations about finding a job and, you know, I can give you tips all day long. But I think it's a really vulnerable space to be in if you find yourself in a layoff. You know, your career is how you feed your family. It's your livelihood, protecting your mental health throughout that process. And that could be any process. It could mean like you were unexpectedly laid off or you're looking for another job because you're in a toxic environment and you're desperate to get out. All of those things can take a toll on your mental health. And so I think if you are in this process, having a support system is so critical. There's so many online support systems, free resources that you can have. Talk to your friends. This is a journey you don't have to go in alone. And it's hard. It's a vulnerable space to be in. And so, you know, one of my best friends recently just went through this, wasn't expecting it. They just bought a house. Ooh, what happens? It's like,
yeah, when all of it's the when it rains it pours type situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but you're never alone, and there's tools and things. Contacting Robert Half is a great resource. So shout out, do it. But no, I think it's important to like first put that make that very clear that this is tough. It's a full-time job to get a job, which is why I'm in business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about the vulnerability of it and you're on the other side of it. What's that like for you? Because you know that these people are coming in, they are in a vulnerable position most of the time. Anybody who's looking for a job is in a vulnerable position because they don't have the security that they need to survive, essentially.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you have to have these hard conversations with them. Like on the other side, give me that perspective.
Yeah, it can be tough because you could have somebody that has 30 years of experience and they've accomplished so much, but they never maintained and modernized their skill set, their certifications, all of these things. So you have to really come in and sometimes break some egos, and it's not fun to do. And it's really hard to have those conversations. And then on the other hand, sometimes I just like get to hype people up and to help people realize that they are so amazing at what they do. And that doesn't come across. So I have to bring that out of them. Like we have to build their confidence back up because they felt like, oh, I was laid off because I wasn't good enough. And so I think that there's a lot of balance to that. You kind of have to be a chameleon when you're working with so many different people and so many different personalities. But I think when you come in, especially if you're working with a staffing firm or a recruiter, coming in with an open mind is so critical. And that's throughout the entire hiring process, whether you're working with a recruiter or not. Keeping an open mind and not putting all of your eggs in one basket, because I can't tell you how many times I have heard from candidates that are like, yeah, I've got a job. Oh, it's coming. And then the budget falls through. It happens all of the time. So it's important to keep that pipeline up, but it's also important to keep a level head, not get too excited, but not get too defeated.
Yeah, you got to stay right kind of on that middle ground, if you will.
Yeah, and it's easier said than done. We're human, right?
Well, yeah, especially, again, you're back to this vulnerable position and kind of feels like everything's on the line, especially if you get laid off. On this kind of other side, you know, not on the layoff side of things.
Yeah.
How do you feel in the space of people who really want to kind of keep working up a ladder, maybe not in their corporation, but bounce around a bunch? Like, do you have a kind of perfect timeline, I guess, if you will, where it's like you should at least stay at a job for this amount of time and then start? Is there any version of that, or is it just kind of open-ended?
You know, it's tough because I've been with my organization for 10 years. I've
also been working for the radio for almost 10 years now with iHeartRadio. So I'm on that same side as you.
Yeah. There is absolute power with leaving an organization and taking learning and experience as a gift. Learning from other people and learning from other organizations can be really powerful. Just make sure if you're going to leave, you've done your research and you've taken all that you've gotten from that job. I mean, if you've got an amazing mentor, if you still got more to learn from your current job, then maybe stay. Write it out. If you're getting paid well, if everything's great, you know, always weigh the pros and cons, but if everything's great, why always leave? The grass isn't always greener. But there is still so much power that you can have. Like, for example, there's certain industries like you should probably leave, like technology. You know, some tech things can become obsolete. MySpace.
There are things that have come and gone.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're like, for example, TikTok is going through a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, and
like,
they closed their like offices, I believe, in the US.
I mean, I'm going to need them to come back.
Yeah, like full time. I mean, we may have the app, but we're not really sure what's happening there.
Yeah, I deleted my app, which is...
Oh, Paige, rookie move.
Okay, but I needed the space. I have a toddler, and he takes maybe 40 images on my phone a day.
You needed the space from it.
I needed the space. So I was like, well, I can't scroll, so I'll delete it. But anyways, tech changes, it modernizes. I mean, we can talk about AI all day long, which is exciting. But, with that kind of things, it's kind of imperative that you move. So knowing your industry, knowing your organization, how adaptable your organization is. I'm fortunate enough that my organization's investing in AI. They're investing in modernizing what we do. They're incredibly adaptable. So and since I love it, I'm paid well. I have had no reason to leave, and I've been promoted within. They do a really great job at retention. So, but there's all types of other reasons to leave: toxic management, unfair wages. If your organization seems like they're not innovative, like maybe it's time to look. So.
Yeah, and I know it's so different for everyone, and that's why I ask, because you see some people, and of course everybody has their version of what perfect looks like, especially when it comes to employment. And, some people are like, nope, you should stay in a job for 30 years. Others are like, no, I'm getting out after 5 months. Time to try a new one. Everybody has this different version of perfect.
Oh, yeah.
So it's interesting to see from your perspective. I think that's really great tools to have, like really understanding your own environment and who you are and what's happening within that. Now, I do want to talk about AI because you did just mention it.
Okay.
All right. So what is happening with AI in the workspace? Like, obviously we know AI is taking over some jobs, but is it helping other jobs? Like what does it look like for you guys?
So a couple of things. Everyone's so uncertain with AI taking jobs. And I mean, knowing what I know, it can be a little scary because I'm interested in that as just a side hobby. I love AI. I use ChatGPT every single day. My organization has their own version of GPT internally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is, and it's fantastic. But it can be scary if you go down some rabbit holes. But here's the problem: is that the whole purpose of AI is to make processes easier, quicker, more efficient. Here's the thing: when people are using it, they're spending a lot of time in it to try to make it more efficient, that it's actually doing the opposite. They're spending more time in these platforms. It's not actually helping. I work with a lot of creative space, and they can use AI to get ideas, but at the same time, it's not as creative as a human actually is. So I think that's been interesting. So right now we're in an interesting space because it's supposed to help us, but it's actually making things less efficient because they're spending so much time in it. So I think once we learn, and you're going to start to see pop up roles with people who specialize in that space, that those jobs are going to be becoming more available. But right now, people aren't fully investing in it. Some people are, some people aren't. So I think like we're kind of on a precipice. It's either going to really take off or it's going to be kind of the same, like something that helps us throughout our day, but maybe not completely take away all the jobs, and then also create jobs.
Yeah.
Too.
It is interesting. I think we focus on the negative side of when new technology comes in, but it's no different than you take someone like me, for example. I was on the beginning stages of what the heck a digital director is, and half the people still don't even know what I do. But I was at those beginning stages of monetizing social media for business and understanding also that it's a kind of mixed in job with marketing and PR, and you're kind of taking on a few different roles within the digital space. And that was uncommon 10 years ago. Now it's common everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those. And I feel like AI is one of these where when it comes in, everybody's like, oh, here we go again. Here's another new thing. But there's always good that comes of it. It's just waiting on it. And I do see the fear in that something, obviously, automizing things would create this sense of like no longer job security, because it is a possibility that it takes away jobs. But to your point, it also brings them in. So AI is a trending one where we could see some jobs start opening up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. But I embrace AI. I think it's smart too. It's made my job I wouldn't say easier, but it has made it more efficient, at least writing emails. Me and my boss, we call Chatty, our our teammate, or another colleague, because we use it that much. It's great for creating ideas, and it's great for content, but at the end of the day, we still have to put our own spin on it. We still have to bring our voice to the table. It's still very much so important, but we embrace it. We love it. And my hope is that most people will do and realize it's more of an aid than something that's going to completely take away your job.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, it's also just the thing too, that it's easier to live in the fearful than trying to embrace the unknown. Mm-hmm. That's just normal. That's human nature to feel that way. Yeah. So I could see why, but I love hearing your perspective on it. What other jobs might trend in that same way? Because you know what? You're a trendsetter in like all kinds of different ways, but looking at the trends of jobs, because I imagine that's something you pay attention to, AI is one that, like, because it's always a good thing to get in on the ground floor of things. AI is going to be one. If you start teaching yourself AI and really become a masterpiece on AI, what are some other jobs that you're seeing that are kind of starting to trend? And that might be a loaded question because there may not be any, but.
Well, I think it's, digital transformation has changed a lot about what we do, how you buy products, how you interact with the world. And so making sure that you have, if you're working in, especially, a professional job, that you understand these tools and how to use them, because your competition will. And if you ever find yourself needing to find a job, it makes more business sense to hire someone who knows those things, because you're not spending time training somebody on that. That's at the end of the day. And when I tell people about writing resumes and all of these things, or interview prep, so businesses want three things. What they want is they want to know how you're going to save them time, money, or generate revenue. That's it. Every single role, that's what they're looking for. And so if you can save an organization time by knowing all of these skill sets or modernizing, for example, a copywriter right now, you're probably going to want to be able to use those AI tools and understand how to optimize your copy. That's going to make you more competitive versus someone who hasn't done that.
Mm-hmm. That totally makes sense. And it's just, it's the way of the world where there's a phrase, and of course it's not coming to me right now, where it's like either like get in or get out kind of thing, like adapt and go with the times. And as everything's changing and like you have to flow with it, because otherwise you're going to be, flowing upstream when everybody else is going downstream.
There's only one constant in business, and that's change.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's the only constant, is that there's going to be peaks and valleys to any business, but like Blockbuster, so
I love how you keep throwing these like random ones. Like for MySpace, Blockbuster, and TikTok has been thrown under the bus multiple times now.
But I think it's also like business is how you get jobs. So you have to adapt. You have to stay relevant to stay competitive.
Yeah, and it's funny if you look at a lot of different businesses. Like I look at Netflix, right? Mm-hmm. When we're younger, Netflix started as this thing that set out of the Walgreens where you walked up and you pull the DVD out and then returned.
And nostalgia.
Yeah, truly. But like you think of what Netflix started, right? Mm-hmm. And they evolved and changed with the times. Instead of staying like, no, we are going to be the DVD business and be outside of these businesses. Instead, they said, okay, we should probably get rid of those. Let's see what this other thing is. And they changed and evolved with the times. It's a huge example of a massive company that instead of doing what they could have stayed with, aka Blockbuster, they evolved and they found another way.
And then they changed the whole game.
For all of them.
Cable. It's the whole, like, innovation is so important. And if you're a client and you're looking to hire, you always want to have those innovators, those people that think differently than you. Experience is a gift. And it's not just an experience on your resume, but it's also your life experience too. Hiring a diverse team brings all of those perspectives. That's how organizations can innovate. Mm-hmm. And it obviously is important.
Yeah, obviously. Innovation, being prepared for change. Listen, just be like goo right now, okay? And just mold and shape as life changes, because that's what we all need to do. Goo's
right.
probably like the most disgusting thing I could have came up with for you to be like, but
Yeah, I mean, just be adaptable. You know, you're going to get thrown some curveballs in business. That's just fact of life. So be adaptable.
yeah, I love that. Is there anything else you want to make sure everybody knows, here's something of a topic that maybe I would have never asked a question on, or something that just comes to mind for you?
You know, I think that, and I get a lot of questions about getting a promotion within your job and ways to do that. And if I were to give a piece of advice, is you've got to let it be known, and not when it's too late. You know, talk about it often with your superiors. Like, hey, I love this organization. It doesn't have to be coming in with a pitchfork and demanding a promotion, but it could be, hey, I know where I'm at now. I love the organization. I really enjoy my job. I enjoy the work that I do. Just know I plan on getting into leadership one day. So planting those seeds, incredibly important. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you know, that's there. And there's much more there too.
Well, yeah. And, you know, as you said that, it's funny. There was something a conversation I look back on in my career when I had first moved to Nashville. I remember meeting one of my big bosses that I have currently with the job on the Bobby Bones Show. Mm-hmm. And she had come into my office. Well, it actually started with one of my other big bosses who had come in and was like, what do you want to do? And he was like, obviously you have more talent than what's sitting right here and what you're doing. And I was like, I think I'd want to work for a bigger show one day. I think that sounds really cool. And I feel like I could be really good at that.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of a plan. It was a passing conversation. It wasn't anything that was a big deal. A couple months later, he had brought his big boss in, who's now one of my big bosses. And she was like, so what do you want to do? What's like your goal? And I planted the seed again. And I was like, this is something that I feel like I'd be really good at. I have a lot of expertise, and it evolves from this role, and I'm still doing something similar. And she was like, okay. And, you know, a couple months later, they had a hand in suggesting me for the job that I have now. And those were passing conversations. Those were not planned meetings. Those were not like, I'm sitting here asking for everything. They were just little seeds that got planted in a conversation. And so you're so right that has such a big role. And I've never thought about that until now.
If you've studied psychology, now granted, I've taken one class. I am no expert. Like, I've taken one class in college.
Hey, you know, one class is better than none.
Yeah. But if you study it, you know that your brain categorizes people. And sometimes you don't see people in a certain light unless you let it be known. For example, my husband, never saw him in a romantic way. He was my friend until one day rum was introduced and someone told me, like, oh, you and Ricky would make a cute couple. And turned my head to the side and I was like, maybe he is cute. So, but you know, again, that seed was planted, and I thought of them in a different light and different space. So it's incredibly important. It's incredibly important to let it be known. But then once you let it be known, you got to start to act like a boss, and you got to start building that brand, and you got to start building your brag book too. Yeah. You know, start to write down your successes. You know, Remy's letting it be known that she's planting the seed that she really wants to dig.
She is. She really wanted to dig in the carpet right then. But I love that. Also, I want to make a reference because Paige is talking about her husband, who was on this podcast, Ricky Fletcher, and he was talking about their relationship, which was an awesome episode if you want to go back for reference. So that's like a fun little Easter egg into another podcast episode. Look at that. You were planting a seed, but it was an Easter egg.
Oh my gosh, like a Mickey Mouse. Like, you know, the hidden Mickeys.
Yes.
Yeah, but he's also having a mentor. He's actually one of my mentors too in business. So he knows a lot about a lot of things. I mean, I know, I don't want to brag on him too much, but yeah, he's really, really strong. So I think it's also having mentors and people that you can count on outside of your organization too, to give you different perspectives on things is also important. But when it comes to promotions, you got to let it be known. You got to start building that brag book. And I learned that. And it's not just, oh, I'm participating in this project or I'm doing this initiative, but then I'm also, what was the results of that? What revenue did that drive? Going back to those three things. How did I save this organization time, money, or generate revenue? You want those case studies. So when you're ready for that promotion, they tap on you, you have a business case, and you make it a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's a really good important tool because asking for a promotion is hard. And asking for an increase in salary or anything also hard. Negotiations are hard. There are things that they don't teach you in school. It's things that you have to experience. And, I remember doing mine for the first time. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I'd get scared. I'd like send off the email and I'd be like, my hands would be shaking. I'm sweating. And I'm like, I don't really want to send this email, but like, I deserve it. But also I'm uncomfortable. And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Until you do evolve and you're like, no, I deserve this. This is what I want. I'm going to go for it. There's steps to that. So all to Paige's point that like you should let it be known. Like majority of people, if you are working hard and you are already recognized as like a great talent within your company or within your organization, then they're going to want to help you evolve and grow within their company, but they can't do that if they don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to let it be known, and not when it's too late, not when the position's open. You've got to start planting those seeds that you want more and you're asking for more. You want to do more because also in the back of their head, what they're going to think is, I'm going to need to promote this person to retain them. If they're a good talent. And that's when, like, once you let it be known, now don't fall off. This is not the time to start showing up to work late and showing up with some sloppy hair. And
no, this is instead the opposite of that, where you really put in more.
Then that's when you lean in and you start to build your brand around, like, this is who I am. And so I think that's also really important that you're seen as a leader. So that's not the time to not brush your teeth and show up late and all of those things. That's really important. But yeah, I think I lost my train of thought. But other than that, yeah.
No, great. That was a good one. That's a perfect thing for us to end on because I wanted to, how important it is. And that was something that I wanted you to touch on. So Paige, thanks for being here.
Of course.
Thanks for talking all about jobs. You can tell also you're just passionate about, but it does feel a little weird for me talking to you about jobs because I'm so used to our friendship being like pretty chaotic and we go and have fun. But right now we're both very professional talking about careers.
I know. Like, this is just a little girl with an advertising degree, like, asked to be made big decisions. Like, who put this responsibility on me?
I often think that often. I'm like, who believe that this was a good idea for me to be in this position sometimes? But
yeah, I mean, imposter syndrome can be real, but I think you've got to have confidence in what you do and what you know. We didn't get here by accident.
No. And most people who made it to the top, we're not talking about the whole Nepo baby situation. Most people who make it to the top have worked very hard to get there.
Unfortunately, I am not blessed to be a Nepo baby.
No, I didn't have a single family member that worked on the Bobby Bones show before that happened. So I think
you don't say. You don't say.
I don't think that would happen. And same for you. Like you said, you were going in advertising and things just took a different turn. So I think it's a cool all around conversation, but also just cool to see what you're doing and how you've just taken over a very boss bitch, I'm going to say it, role. Oh, and it's been amazing.
It has, but I'm really lucky because I've got such great support. I work on an executive team that's made of over half women.
Love that.
Which is also great, and they're all mothers. So it's also just great to have that support, that mentorship. So I'm really lucky. Not everyone has that. And so I think that it's really important to have exposure and seeing yourself in other people. So anywho,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that for you. I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And there's more to accomplish. There's so much to do. So you can't get rid of me yet, Robert Half. But yeah, it's a great place to work. And, there's a reason why Fortune named us the most admired company for 27 consecutive years in a row.
I believe that's because you're one of the boss babes that's on there. I mean, that's where we're at. That's what I feel. Mostly because that's about all I know about the company. So I'm rolling with it. It's all you.
Well, I'm just going to constantly draw plugs. Oh, look, see, it's called planting seeds, you guys.
So many seeds.
So many seeds.
Okay, Paige, thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thanks.